So it's that time of year again. The NBA tips off next week, and as is tradition every year here at Synthetic Sports, we predict every team's NBA season in 3 words or less. Before we predict every NBA team season in 3 words or less, if you haven't already, make sure this video like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. But first, a word from the sponsor of today's video, Arena Club. Guys, some of my favorite memories growing up was back when I would just go to the store with a couple dollars in my pocket, and I'd walk out with a pack of brand new trading cards. My dad was a big basketball fan too, and I remember him just breaking out, just like binders and binders full of like classic retro NBA cards that he eventually passed down to me and my brother. And as a kid, there was nothing more exhilarating than, ripping open a pack, looking through the cards you got and hoping you pulled one of your favorite players. Hell, I remember like back when I was a kid, like going to a garage sale and finding, a jersey card of Greg Oden from way back in the day, or, a signature shots Martell Webster where he signed what looks like a piece of a basketball, maybe. But I mean, like, finding something like this at like a garage sale, core memory for like 10-year-old me. And fast forward to today, there's now a new and better way to buy and sell trading cards, and it's all thanks to today's sponsor, Arena Club. Arena Club slap packs are the best place to buy, sell, and trade cards all in one place. And unlike traditional trading card packs, there is full transparency. You know the odds of every single card that you could potentially pull in a pack. Dame? Okay. I wouldn't mind pulling Dame. That'd be pretty cool. What else? Okay, Scoot Henderson. I mean, I'm the Blazer guy, so you know what? I wouldn't be upset with that. Check this out though. We rip open a pack and we get Michael Jordan. Okay, I mean, I'm always fine with getting a Jordan. I'm fine with that. And as you'll see, after pulling the card, I immediately get an offer to sell it. And that's because for every slap pack, Arena Club makes you an offer immediately based on the fair market value of the card. And should you choose to keep the card, you can keep it in your digital storeroom and you can trade it, you can sell it, you can auction it, or eventually you can redeem the actual physical card itself. So check out Arena Club today. And right now you can get 20% off your first slap pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/synthetic and using our promo code synthetic. Once again, that's arenaclub.com/synthetic and use the promo code synthetic to get 20% off your first slap pack or card purchase. And thank you again to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. Atlanta Hawks, injuries created opportunity. Honestly, you could have this for like 4 or 5 teams in the Eastern Conference just because, I mean, Boston is not going to be anything this year. Indiana's not going to be anything this year. Milwaukee looked like they weren't going to be anything because of Dame's injury. So, big teams that, seemingly going to be contenders are defanged for at least a year. And if you're the Hawks, I mean, you bring in Porzingis, you got Jalen Johnson, Risa Shea another year, Trey you still got, Onyeka Okongwu. I mean, you got a nice little supporting cast there. Could you crack into the top 4 in the Eastern Conference? Maybe.
I said biggest dark horse. I feel like every year there's this dark horse team. Last year it kind of felt like the Pacers were that team. And this year for the Hawks, like you said, they got opportunity. Like we said in the video we made on them, they basically got everything. If Trey can have a good year, if Risa Shea, Jalen Johnson, those guys can improve as well, like this team could make the Eastern Conference Finals, and who knows, they even could win the East. Boston Celtics, this one, it's only gonna make sense if you played Star Wars Battlefront 2, the OG Galactic Conquest.
Oh, I'm really curious.
I said Tatum Garrison reinforcement. Now let me explain this. In the Galactic Conquest, there was something called Garrison. And when you're down to like 20 troops, like 20 lives left, Garrison comes in and you get 30 extra troops.
Yep.
And that's what Tatum's gonna do this year. I personally think he's coming back. I think he's coming back in like March. The Celtics, they're gonna be treading water and out of nowhere, kind of like, in Endgame, the circle's gonna open and Tatum's coming through and they're gonna be a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Interesting. There's something you forgot about Garrison in Battlefront 2 though, especially when we played together, is we had to ban it.
We did, yes.
So, yeah, even if Tatum is ready to come back with like 10 games left. I'm not sure the Celtics will let them. So that's why I said completely wasted year. They might still make the playoffs because the bottom of the East isn't that great, but they fire sold so much of their roster. I mean, Porzingis isn't there anymore. Horford's not there anymore. It's basically like Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. Cornette, is he still there?
No, he went to the Spurs.
Luke Cornett's not there anymore. Yeah, I mean, Ant's there, but this team ain't doing anything this year. Brooklyn Nets, dead last assists. I mean, they were 24th last year, and their top 3 players in terms of average assists per game, Ben Simmons, Dennis Schroeder, and D'Lo, are no longer on the roster, and they're bringing in Michael Porter Jr. This team will be lucky if they're not bottom 3, but I think they're going to be dead last.
I said the worst team. At least they have control of their own pick. I mean, they made that trade with the Rockets. I think it was not this past offseason, but the year prior. You traded Cam Johnson over the offseason. I could see them trading Claxton just to cash in. Cam Thomas and Michael Porter Jr., like you said, basically alluding to, they're going to be chucking up shots.
Yeah.
This is going to be an awful team. Charlotte Hornets, no playoff decade. The last time the Hornets made the playoffs was 2016. I don't think they're making it this year. I'm sorry, Charlotte Hornets fans. We made a couple videos, you know, kind of talking about how bad you've been. So maybe we'll curse you guys, like a reverse curse. You'll make the playoffs, but at least right now, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, I said last LaMelo year, question mark. Like we just made a video recently on LaMelo. I hope this isn't the case. Like I hope he figures it out. You know, they were talking about they wanted him to develop as a leader a little bit. I hope he can do that. I hope he can become the player that Charlotte needs, but this is going to be what, his 6th year in the NBA, and they've gotten worse year over year basically since he's got there. He can never stay healthy. Seems like he's a little bit immature. I think if they have another bad year, Charlotte might look at cutting ties with him. You know, seeing what you could get for him on the trade market.
Yeah.
Chicago Bulls, 39 wins again. I mean, look, they got a nice young core, you know, Giddey, Buzeles, Dosunmu, Kobe White, but they've won 39 games each of the past 2 years, and I just think it'd be funny if they did it again.
I'm a bit more optimistic. I said finally trending up. Like, goddamn, you still got Vucevic, but at least you finally cut ties like DeRozan, you know.
How do they still have Vucevic?
I don't know. DeRozan's been gone for a full season. Levine's gone. Like, I thought Giddey was great to end the season. You lock him up. Kobe White, Buzeles, like, they got some young players, and it feels like, at least for Chicago, not that they're this, like, insanely good young team moving forward, but at least they're trending up. Cleveland Cavaliers, another playoff disappointment.
Ooh.
Cavs fans, I know a big reason you lost last year was the injuries. It was still disappointing to see you go out in the second round, given that insanely good year you had, though. And it just feels like every year they just can't quite get it done in the playoffs. I don't know if it's Donovan Mitchell, not that he necessarily underperforms in the playoffs, but for whatever reason, his teams like seem to not make it super far. And to me, this Cavs team, I don't know if it's some sort of LeBron curse or something, but it feels like come playoff time, whether it's injuries or just underperforming, they always disappoint, or at least the past couple years they've disappointed.
Interesting. I said should win East. Like, I kind of thought about doing something like that, but I kept looking at all the teams in the Eastern Conference, and I was just like, realistically, what team outside of maybe the Knicks would you say is better than Cleveland?
None.
Yeah,
On
again,
paper, none.
Boston's not there yet. Indiana's not going to be there. You know, Detroit is good, but they're still young. They haven't really done anything. New York, maybe, but Cleveland's got everything that they need. The East is completely wide open. They should be the odds-on favorite. So I don't know if they will do it, but they absolutely should do it. It should be NBA Finals or bust for this team. Dallas Mavericks, late season push. I think this could be a team that around the trade deadline is hovering around 500, maybe even a little bit below it. I bet Anthony Davis is probably going to be in and out of the lineup throughout most of the season, as he always is. Cooper Flag, I think, will be good, but he's a rookie, so I think it's going to take some time for him to, you know, get his feet wet in the NBA. But I think, you know, around late February, early March, maybe they get Kyrie back from his injury. Cooper Flag has figured it out a little bit. Jason Kidd has figured out how to, you know, mesh all these new pieces together. The Mavericks go on a nice little late season push. I don't think they'll really do anything in the playoffs, but I think, you know, every year we have a team that, you know, around mid-season is around 500, and then they end up finishing with like 48 wins. I think that could be Dallas this year.
Fair enough. I said best front court. I mean, it's hard to argue against. No matter how you feel about Nico, like this front court's stacked. You got AD, Derek Lively, Cooper Flag, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. Now the rest of the lineup isn't necessarily stacked, especially with Kyrie out. I mean, D'Lo, that's going to be fun to see. We'll see what Klay has left in the tank, but the front court, like, it's great. Denver Nuggets, Jokic, second ring. I'm picking the Nuggets. I flirted with it a bit before, but I just loved their offseason. You bring back Bruce Brown. Jonas Valanciunas is a very good backup. Tim Hardaway Jr. I love the Cam Johnson move. I feel like he's just an upgrade on Michael Porter Jr. Better defender, better like consistent offensive player. Defense has to be there. Slipped a bit last season, and because of that, you know, they couldn't get past the Thunder, but they played the Thunder tough last season. It's so hard to repeat. I think Jokic bowls out and he wins that second ring.
Yeah, I put Jokic's best roster. I mean, you said it. Cam Johnson, even like, you know, Tim Hardaway and Bruce Brown, Jonas Valanciunas as a backup center. Like that's a great pickup. Convinced him to stay in Denver instead of going over to Greece, right?
I think they like blocked it.
Yeah, they basically did block it. But, you know, probably in terms of like just a roster on paper, probably better than the Nuggets team that won the title a couple years ago.
Yeah, on paper.
I mean, their problem is they're playing in the Western Conference, and the Western Conference just fucking sucks. So, you know, not willing to commit to picking them to win the title or anything, but definitely Jokic's best roster he's had. Detroit Pistons, home playoff win, because they didn't get one against the Knicks somehow. They lost all 3 home playoff games that they played. That means they still have not won a home playoff game since they beat the Boston Celtics in Game 4 of the 2008 Eastern Conference Finals.
Shit.
It's been that long, but I think with how wide open the Eastern Conference is, I think Detroit has got a great chance to get a top 4 seed, and whether they do or don't, they are winning a home playoff game this year. I will guarantee that.
I said plateau year, and you might hear that and kind of think of it negatively, but I actually mean that like positively. You had one of the biggest leaps in NBA history last season. I'm not expecting them to make another leap and win another like 20 games or 30 games, something crazy like that.
Yeah. Well, if they won another 30 games, they'd break the NBA record. That would be 74 wins.
Exactly. So I say the goal should honestly be just kind of like, have a plateau year. Try to, win a playoff game at home. You don't need to make some crazy leap. Just keep building. But, you know, just build off what you did last season. Be just as good. I think that's a success for the Pistons. I think that's all they'd have to do. Golden State Warriors, old player injury. That's going to be the thing that I think derails their season, makes it so they can't win a title. We recently made a video on this team and said they basically have everything, but one of those 4 old players is getting injured. Al Horford's 39, Curry's 37, Jimmy's 36, and Draymond is 35. We saw it last year. Steph gets hurt, and they go out to the Timberwolves in a series they could have won. I think it'll happen again this year.
I put Kuminga traded midseason. Like, I am so sure this is going to happen that I will be genuinely shocked if it doesn't happen. Like, I just think that bridge, if it's not burnt to the ground, it's on fire right now, and I think the lack of size for the Warriors is going to be something they want to address at midseason. And Kuminga, say what you want about him, but he's still young, he's got talent, he's an interesting trade piece for some other teams, so I think they ship him out at the trade deadline for a big. Houston Rockets loses conference finals. I think Kevin Durant is just a straight upgrade over Jalen Green in basically every way. He's a better scorer, he's a more efficient scorer, and the Rockets didn't really have to give up too much to bring him in. Now, the Fred VanVleet injury really hurts. Losing VanVleet sucks, but even then, I think this team is still talented enough to go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they get bounced by Oklahoma City.
I'm pretty negative here, but I had to be real. VanVleet ruined season.
Oh.
Now, it's not his fault. I don't think he was trying to tear his ACL.
Well, you don't know that.
Yeah, who knows? But the Rockets going into the season, they were a team I was thinking about picking to win the title before that injury. But without him, like, I just don't think they could win the title. And sure, they can still have a good season. Like you said, I think they could make the conference finals, but just without VanVleet, without, you know, like a true point guard, at least at the moment, I don't think they can win it all. And they'll still have more chances. They're a young team, but at least for this year, that injury ruined their season. Indiana Pacers can't survive losses. Now, they lost one player, Tyrese Halliburton, to injury, and then they lost Miles Turner in free agency. They might still be a scrappy team that surprises people because that's just their nature, you know, the culture there. So they're going to be winning some games. They're like, how the hell did this team lose to the Pacers? I'm sure that's going to happen, but ultimately, like, they're not going to be able to replicate any of that magic from last year or 2024 without those two guys.
Yeah, I put the same thing I put for the Celtics. I put completely wasted year. I mean, Halliburton's out with the Achilles injury. You lose Miles Turner in free agency. If they had lost one of those two, I'd think, you know, maybe they could win a playoff series still because the East is so wide open. But the fact that they lost their 2 best players for the entire season, like you said, they'll probably grind out some wins here or there, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the lottery next year. Los Angeles Clippers, all-star awkwardness. Now, maybe we're all just gonna be goldfishes and this is gonna be completely out of the news cycle by then, but the whole Kawhi, aspiration scandal that's been going down, the fact that the Clippers are hosting All-Star Weekend this year when all this has happened in the offseason, like, I think it's just gonna be really, really weird. Like, especially if Kawhi makes the All-Star team.
Yeah.
Maybe the NBA will ban journalists from asking him this question, but, if it's, open season, journalists ask whatever you want. Kawhi's gonna get questions about it. If Steve Ballmer's interviewed, he's gonna get questions about it. If Adam Silver's interviewed, he's gonna get questions about it, and it's just not gonna feel very fun.
I said NBA retirement home. I mean, this team is unprecedentedly just insanely old. You got Chris Paul, who's 40. I don't know if you saw those media day clips, but he looks just wholly washed. Brook Lopez is 37, James Harden's 36, Nick Batum is 36, Kawhi's 34. You even got like Bradley Beal's 32, Bogdanovich 33. This is the NBA retirement home. Los Angeles Lakers supporting cast letdown. I've kind of been saying this since the end of last season. I do not trust their supporting cast. Luka's great. LeBron still plays at a high level. I'm not really an Austin Reeves guy. I don't think he's a good fit next to Luka. He's not a good enough defender. He's also a weird guy where he's an undersized 2, but he's not quite the playmaker you want to 1. I think they're going to end up hating DeAndre Ayton. I'm waiting for the stuff Lakers fans will be saying about him on Twitter after games. Marcus Smart hasn't played at a high level in 2 or 3 years now. Jake LaRavia, I just think the supporting cast is going to let them down.
I put LeBron re-signs mid-season. There's been a lot of talk about his potential future, what could happen. I just really don't see him leaving the Lakers. I know that there's a little bit of tension within the organization and, between him because they are focusing on Luka because he is the future. But I'm just looking around, I'm like, where could he really go? We made a video on this not too long ago, maybe New York, maybe Cleveland on a vet minimum, but I don't really see it. I think they're going to work something out. Will he still be making the max? I'm not sure, but I think at some point this upcoming season, I think LeBron signs, 2-year extension to keep him in LA. Memphis Grizzlies, play-in tournament loser. I mean, they traded away Desmond Bane. Ja's now injured coming into the season. I don't have a lot of faith in this team, honestly. They got a first-time head coach, which, say what you want about Taylor Jenkins, whether he had worn out his welcome in Memphis. The guy is a really good coach, and now you're replacing him with a guy who could be a really good coach. He's a young guy, but that's still a complete unknown, and the West is just so deep. I don't see how they can finish outside of the play-in tournament, and I think they're gonna lose.
I said injuries strike again. Last year, Ja misses 32 games. He missed almost all of 2023. Almost everyone was out that 2023 season. And then this offseason, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey, and Brandon Clark all had surgery over the offseason. They're hoping Jaren Jackson is going to be ready for opening night. You mentioned it, Ja injured his ankle. He's week to week right now. He might not be ready for opening night. Just feels like, even healthy, this team's a playoff team, maybe playing, but they're just so injury prone. I think, playing or lottery just because of the injuries. Miami Heat, no rebuild gimmick. I mean, at some point, you guys got to stop this gimmick.
Yeah.
I get it. It worked for so long from, Shaq and D Wade to LeBron D Wade to Jimmy and Bam, but I just don't really think they're going anywhere. I feel like at some point you gotta tear it down and rebuild. Maybe they'll get a guy like Giannis. Maybe they'll attract another big name free agent. It'll work out, but I'm getting tired of this gimmick, to be honest.
Well, I think a certain gray-haired man might also be getting tired of this gimmick because I put Riley steps down.
Ooh,
I don't think he'll do it mid-season, but I think this is going to be another year for the Heat where they're, in and around the play-in tournament area. They missed the playoffs, and I think at the end of the day, Riley's just going to realize, my time is up. He's been at it in Miami for 20 plus years at this point. He's been around them forever.
Yeah, long
time, right? And like you said, there's no clear path aside from them pulling a rabbit out the hat, which to be fair, they've done before, but even back then you could see the path, right? You could see them trading for Shaq back when they did that. The big 3 in Miami was a rumor years ahead of it actually happening, right? Outside of them just somehow pulling off a miracle and landing Giannis, what's the path back to contention for this team? And, Riley stepped down as coach in 2008 when they were losing, and I think saying, honestly, if they keep losing, I don't really think he wants to be part of a rebuild. I don't think he wants to go out, scouting young talent. So I think he will step down if they have another disappointing season. Milwaukee Bucks delaying the inevitable. I mean, props to them for trying to dig themselves out of a bad situation by, waiving Dame, bringing in Miles Turner. But at this point, it just feels like a matter of time until Giannis eventually leaves. Like they don't have any first round draft capital. They don't have a lot of great young players. Miles Turner's a good fit next to Giannis, but even in the East, that's completely wide open. It doesn't feel like they have enough to get beyond the second round. So I think at this point, we're just, holding off the Grim Reaper just like one day at a time.
Yeah, I'm basically on the same page. I said Giannis, trade rumors. That's going to be the thing the whole season. Everyone's going to be talking about it unless they come out just guns a-blazing and just dominating teams. They're anywhere near 500 or God forbid under 500. That's all anyone is going to be talking about regarding the Milwaukee Bucks. Minnesota Timberwolves, young player breakout. I'm not necessarily saying I'm expecting that, but that's what they need. Like, this Timberwolves team needs one of their young guys to break out so they can not just make the conference finals, but make the NBA finals. They got some young guys who could do it. Rob Dillingham, he was the 8th pick in 2024, got some minutes last year. Terrence Shannon Jr. had, a couple moments last year. He could be something, but as they lose guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, eventually other guys like Mike Conley Jr., they're going to retire. And, Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Julius Randle, they're all getting paid. So they're going to have some young players step up and, add some production.
See, I went completely out in left field with something just very, very random and bizarre.
Okay, let's hear it.
Wins NBA Cup.
Okay.
I don't really know why. Like, I got this feeling, but I was kind of just looking at the groups for the NBA Cup, and their group is OKC, Phoenix, Utah, and Sacramento. So, like, if you could get out of your group, right, just get past OKC, I feel like this is the type of team that weirdly enough would take the in-season tournament seriously and would actually really go for it. Yeah, so like, I'm throwing a dart at a dartboard, right, trying to pick out which team I think win the NBA Cup. Fuck it, I'm gonna go with Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm buying into it now that you're saying that.
Exactly. New Orleans Pelicans, Zion finally skinny? Question mark? We've seen the pictures, we've seen him at Media Day. I'll give him credit. He looks good, but we've been fooled by this before. For the Pelicans' sake, I hope he is. I hope it works out for him. I hope he plays 75, 80 games and they can actually be a competitive team in the Western Conference. And just like as a neutral, Zion, when he actually plays, is so damn entertaining, and it's so frustrating that he barely ever plays. So I'm hoping he came into this season in the best shape of his career. He can actually have a good, productive season, and maybe we can finally talk about the New Orleans Pelicans in a positive light for the first time in a while.
I said Zion looks dominant. I think this year, he's going to have a dominant season. It looks like he's in shape. I feel like the criticism has finally got to him a bit. Problem is, they're not going to be a good team.
Yeah.
Like, with the addition of Jordan Poole, it's a little bit interesting. Maybe DeJounte Murray can stay healthy, but the team overall is not good enough in a stacked Western Conference. But I think Zion's going to give us some highlights. He's going to have some dominant games and maybe have his best season as a pro. New York Knicks, I had to say it, finally makes finals. Last year, it was their first conference finals since 2000. This year is going to be their first finals since 1999. I mean, hell, if the Pacers didn't have that crazy ass ending to game one, Nesmith, turning into Reggie Miller, Tyrese Halliburton hit the choke on them.
Yep.
Maybe the Knicks would have already been in the finals last year, but I think they do it this season. The starting lineup already looked great last year. I think, starting Mitchell Robinson this year could make them even better. You bring Josh Hart off the bench. Jalen Brunson keeps getting better. I feel like just Mikal and OG, like, really were grooving into their role, playing well. I think they're going to make the finals this year.
I put praying for Giannis, which incidentally is the same 3 words I put for the Nets at the end of last season, but it's shifted a little bit because of, the Shams reports and whatnot. I don't really think this is actually going to happen, nor do I really think the Knicks would be over the moon to do it, especially if they're actually playing well. Like, why mess with a good thing? But I think fans of the Knicks especially would really be pushing for this. Like, oh, we got a chance to get Giannis, we could bring him to the Big Apple. Like, don't really think it's gonna happen, but I think there are plenty in the New York area who are very much going to bed every night, saying a little prayer to the man upstairs that Giannis eventually dons a Knicks jersey. Oklahoma City Thunder, best record again. This was the first one I filled out, and I think it's the easiest one of this entire list to fill out. Barring catastrophe, they are gonna have the best record in the NBA again. I think in a couple years, maybe they could be victims of the second apron, having having to part ways with some guys, but for the time being, they are the best team on paper and on the court in the NBA, and it honestly might not be that close.
Yeah, I completely agree. Best regular season record. My gut even tells me they're going to win the finals, but you already know I picked the Nuggets, so I said repeating is hard. Like I said, basically everything tells me the Thunder are going to repeat because they're so dominant. They have everything, but it's felt that way for like a while. I thought the Celtics would repeat. Kind of felt like the Nuggets had a good chance in 2024 after
Milwaukee
they won.
in 21 too.
Yeah, and every team has fallen victim to just this unprecedented era parity, so I have to just think the trend continues and they're going to realize that repeating is very hard. Orlando Magic, most slept on. Now, this is specifically among like NBA media. The Magic, they feel like the least talked about contender in the East. Like even like the Hawks team, it feels like has gotten way more hype, but the Magic on paper probably should be better than Atlanta, and they've been talked about less. I mean, you add Desmond Bane, perfect fit for them. They need shooting. If Jalen Suggs can stay healthy, the rest of the team can stay healthy, they have a good shot to win the East, and like Vegas even thinks so. I was looking at NBA title odds. They got a better chance to win the title according to the money, according to the books, than like teams like the Warriors. So
interesting.
I think the Magic are getting slept on by the media going into this season.
Yeah, I put wins playoff series. I mean, last year they were a solid team that just got clobbered by injuries the entire year, whether it was to Wagner, whether it was to Jalen Suggs, Banchero, like none of them could stay healthy. But I kind of feel like that was like a one-off, bad year because none of those guys are really supremely injury prone, I think, right? So I think they just had one year where, chips didn't fall their way. They got injured. It happens, right? I think they stay healthy this year. Desmond Bane, despite the fact I still think they gave up too much for him, is a solid addition. He's going to bring shooting to a team that desperately needed it. And I think because, if you get the third seed in the Eastern Conference, you might end up playing like, Milwaukee or the Pacers in the first round, which, I think they could definitely get past. Philadelphia 76ers, injuries wreck again. Paul George, Embiid, they're not going to be in the lineup consistently. Like, it is what it is at this point. I'm done thinking that this team could actually do something, especially a guy like Embiid. A guy his size doesn't get healthier with age, right? And he barely played at all last season. Paul George, even when he did play, was a shell of his former self. Maxey is still good. We'll see how good VJ Edgecombe could be, but again, I think injuries are going to be this team's undoing.
I mostly agree, but at the same time, can't be worse. Like, it can't be worse than last season, technically.
See, you say that, and that's normally when it is worse.
Okay, I mean, technically it can be worse, but I'm expecting Embiid to at least play like 40, 50 games. Maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of just feel like Embiid is going to have a bit of a bounce back year. If Maxey and Paul George can stay mostly healthy, this should be a playoff team. I mean, maybe injury strike again, they're not, but I think they should be like a play-in team, make the playoffs, because yeah, it would be tough to be worse than last year. Phoenix Suns, Booker gets paid. And that's not even necessarily referring to like a supermax coming or anything like that. I'm just saying like Booker is getting money in Phoenix. He's not getting any help. He's in a terrible situation. I don't know if you saw that stream he did with Speed where he was showing off his garage, but people were kind of saying like, you know what? I actually would probably just stay in Phoenix and collect money because he had this massive TV screen playing like some old Lakers game. He had all these old cars. He was walking at one point. There was a ton of shoes and people like in the replies were saying like, I thought they were in a Foot Locker, but no, it's just Booker's garage. I mean,
great weather in Phoenix too.
Yeah, and you get money, probably cheap to buy, a huge house there. He's getting paid. He's got his own team. Life ain't too bad.
Yeah, but with every superstar that's on a bad team, one thing follows, and that's gonna be Booker trade rumors.
Ooh,
I mean, that's gonna happen, especially if the Suns aren't that good. I'm not exactly sure how much their draft capital they have going forward. I think not much, right? So it probably doesn't really behoove them to trade Booker away because they're not even going to be, picking high in the draft because they don't have their picks, right? But it's going to happen if they're struggling. Portland Trailblazers returns to playoffs.
Let's go.
It's gonna happen. Everyone's sleeping on us, which, you know what? Fine. But, got a solid team, brought in Drew Holiday. We still got Denny, Tamani. We got the Chinese Jokic. We got Klingon. Got rid of Ant, which, he's a good player, but he didn't really fit with what Chauncey's trying to do. We should be really solid on defense. Dame's coming back next year, which doesn't do a lot this year, but he brings the leadership, right? Scoot, breakout year. Shaden Sharp, potentially breakout year. Maybe maybe I'm probably high on the Kool-Aid right now. I'm getting a little excited. You know, we're thinking about going to opening night. We probably will go to opening night next Wednesday. Right. So, you know, I'm thinking about that, thinking about having Blazers basketball back, but we are returning to the playoffs after, what is it, like 4 years at this point? It'll be
2021,
5. Yes,
so yeah, 5.
It'll be 5 by the time the playoffs come around, but you know what? We're getting back there this year.
I'm glad to hear we're both delusional because I said playoff team.
Exactly.
We're going to be putting teams in the torture chamber. I mean, look at the starting lineup. Drew Holiday, Tumani, Shaden, Denny, Klingon, locking teams up. We're going to be playing on the break, super athletic. Shaden Sharp breakout year. Tumani Kamara breakout year. I think Scoot will have a good year. He's going to be injured to start the season. I hated to see that, but I think he's going to, you know, prove people wrong. I think Drew Holiday still's got things left in the tank. He can mentor. If I'm worried about anything, it's the front court depth because Klingon was not very conditioned last year. Now he's the starter. You have Duop Reith, and then you have Hansen, who I actually don't think is going to contribute a lot this season, but you never know. I mean, I don't trust Robert Williams to ever stay healthy as well. Thibault hopefully can stay healthy, but I think we're going to be a playoff team, and I'm not even like coping. That's honestly what I believe. Sacramento Kings need U-turn. This team has been heading in the wrong direction for a couple seasons now. They were headed the right way at one point, but somehow they had to reroute, you know, Apple Maps screwed them over or something.
They need to switch to Waze.
Yeah, they got to switch to Waze, Google Maps. I don't know. I don't get why they took on Levine, DeRozan, what the hell they're doing there, but they need to turn this thing around because they're headed back to the old Kings.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like, why not head down the wrong path for just one more season and let Russ cook? It. Why not? You already have DeRozan. You already have Levine. Bring in Russ too, and start all three of them and just see how bad it can get. San Antonio Spurs, West's biggest wild card. This team, I think, could be, you know, a play-in team, you know, theoretically, because, you know, they are still very young. They don't have a lot of experience. They are making a head coaching change after Pop stepped down. So I think there could be some growing pains this year. That being said, they could also be a top 4 seed if Wemby plays like a top 5 player in the NBA, which he has all the potential in the world to do. And that's not even talking about, you know, De'Aaron Fox, Dylan Harper, all the great players that are on this team. They're a big wild card though. Like they could be really good, could be, you know, decent or whatever, but worst case scenario, I think they're a play-in team.
I got another hot take here. I said Wemby wins MVP.
Ooh.
It might be too high on Wemby. I think even Spurs fans in our last video are like, damn, you guys are like almost overrating us. Like we weren't quite expecting that much from this season, but I really think, you know, the chips are aligning. You know, third season, it's pretty rare to win MVP, but Wemby is the most rare player in NBA history. I think just the stat line he's going to have at the end of the season, like you're going to look at things, you're going to see the Spurs as like a 48-50 win team. And voters, you know, voter fatigue, new guy coming in, I think they're going to vote for Wemby, and I think he wins MVP. Toronto Raptors, what's happening here? Honestly, like that's legit what I'm asking. Toronto's one of those teams where it's been hard to keep up with them. They've been so irrelevant these past couple of years. They're on the East. They're like way far away from us. They're in Canada.
Yeah, they're in another country.
Yeah, so you're looking at the roster and you're like, okay, you have Scotty Barnes. Like he's, you know, good player. Scotty Barnes, I like his game. You traded for Brandon Ingram. Okay. You have Quickly. You have RJ Barrett. Like what exactly is happening?
Yeah, I put pushes for play-in and I even struggled putting that down. Like, again, like you said, this roster is just weird. Like it's solid players. Like, you know, Scotty Barnes, a borderline all-star level player. Same thing with Brandon Ingram. I remember seeing like the tweet where they traded for Brandon Ingram and I was just like, why? Like, I really don't understand it. Maybe they could prove us wrong. They could take a little bit of a leap, but I think they're going to be in that, you know, 35 to, you know, 38 win range, which, you know, probably could be good enough for the 9th, 10th seed in the Eastern Conference and, you know, get them into the play-in tournament, but that's all they're doing. Utah Jazz, Bailey, ROTY incoming. I mean, this dude has been balling out in preseason so far, looked pretty good in summer league. I mean, there was the whole, you know, weird thing with the draft process and his agent, you know, they were telling teams not to draft him because he wanted to fall in the draft, and Utah, like, you know, took a chance on him, and there was maybe a chance that, you know, people were saying, oh, he's not going to sign with Utah, and then he fired his agent, like a whole bunch of random bullshit this offseason. Right. And then the kid actually gets on the floor, and you're like, oh, damn, he's actually, like, pretty damn good. Now, there's some other contenders, but Bailey's going to have a great chance to be one of the top, if not the top guy, if they move on from Lauri Markkanen in Utah. So, you I think he's got a good chance at it.
I said terrible trade timing, and this actually doesn't refer to a trade they've made. It refers to trades they haven't made. Like you kind of alluded to, I think Markkanen's going to get moved this season, but they should have moved him either last season or the season prior to that because it felt like he had more value.
Yeah.
Same with Walker Kessler, has that just incredible rookie year and then has kind of slowly just kind of plateaued or regressed. And now they're looking to trade him. I don't know what his value is at this point, but 2 years ago, it seemed like he had a lot of value. So I'm kind of just questioning the front office. I know Danny Ainge has a really good rep as a great general manager, and maybe he's cooking up something we don't know, but it just feels like the trade timing there has been terrible. Washington Wizards, Sarr gives hope. The past 2 seasons, they've won less than 20 games, but I think Alex Sarr is going to give them something to root for, something to give this Washington Wizards fans some hope. He had that terrible summer league, he had that bad start to the season, but the second half of his year, I think I was even kind of thinking he should have won Rookie of the Year. I thought he looked really well. I think Sarr is going to build off of that and be the best player from that 2024 class.
I really thought about doing another French guys thing.
I thought about it too.
Yeah, but I couldn't do it. I had to actually give him something real.
Yeah.
I put mid-season buyout watch. Both CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton are in the last year of their deals. They're both making about $30 million this upcoming season. And when this team is 15 and 40 at the trade deadline, are they really going to want to keep those two around, or are they going to want to play some of the younger guys on their team? So I think those two prime candidates for mid-season buyouts.
And CJ can come home.
Exactly. There you go. And return to the playoffs.
Yes.
That's the video, guys. What are your predictions for every NBA team? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.